And we should have people joining. Let me make sure. Yes, I think everybody's coming in. So I'm gonna give people a few seconds to make sure you're muted, all that kind of stuff. I could probably do it from my end, but I'll give people a second to sort it out. See. If everybody else is good. I'm just looking down through the list of who's in here, making sure nobody's gonna suddenly accidentally be talking and not realize that their mic is on and I embarrass somebody. All right, so we got all that. So, all right, hey, we appreciate everybody being here. And oh, somebody popped in. Let me make sure I got a mute. There we go. David's in. Let me take care of that for you, David. So to be Heather, myself, who else is off mute? Okay, everybody else is kind of muted out for now. And I will do my best to watch. How can I get back to the list? I want to make sure I watch the list because sometimes people pop in at the last second and I didn't see that they popped in. So apologize for the few minutes there while we're getting going. I think anybody who's ever done a Zoom meeting knows that half the time it's just a little bit of technology that gets in the way. So let me make sure I've got my notes pulled up so that I can take notes as I'm going here tonight. And we've got a basic agenda. I don't know if anybody saw the agenda earlier, but there was a real basic agenda that I threw up earlier, and it kind of just was a quick outline anyways. So we'll go through and we'll hit a few key points here and then move straight into our meeting. We've got a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to run through that's going to kind of be kind of quick, and then a few things that are going to slow down for a second, and then we'll get into the kind of the bigger thing, which is the budget discussion this evening. So I'm going to hit on some housekeeping notes. This is a meeting of the board of directors for the purpose of conducting HOA business. Members are welcome to view the discussion, but are not necessarily invited to join the discussion for the sake of maintaining order. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available to the community. Check these off as I go. The chat is open for members to use, but not necessarily be monitoring live. So if we don't notice your chat, we'll probably circle back on it later. But if we do see it, we might address it at the time. But I don't want to keep bouncing back and forth all over the place. So we do have a lot we're going to kind of bang through here. If time is available, the board may open the floor to members at the end of the meeting. And please note, this is something I want to hit on really big here because you guys will notice Justin's on camera and Justin is like he's fighting through his shell to be on camera, and I appreciate that. It isn't natural and normal to be on camera. It feels unusual at times. So somebody doing something like that, I want to remind everybody that all discussions amongst the board are just that. They're conversations. Board members are free to express their views and opinions, but are also free to change their minds. The purpose of these discussions is to allow board members the opportunity to hear other board members' ideas and then debate those ideas. The purpose of the open meeting is to allow the membership the opportunity to hear the board members' opinions and better understand the how and why behind the decisions made. So basically, just because we're talking about something and we're going off in one direction, it doesn't mean it's a vote. Unless we call for a motion and we're voting, that's one thing. But we're just throwing out ideas. We're talking through things. So don't hold somebody to a number. If we ask Justin for a number off the top of his head, and he's like, I don't have that in front of me, but if I remember correctly, it was somewhere in the ballpark of 20,000, and it turns out it was 25,000. Okay, that's close. He's trying to remember off the top of his head. So a little bit of just grace, I guess, as we go. So we'll call the meeting to order, and we'll take attendance. And starting, it is currently, and I'm just gonna make myself a note here, 7:12 p.m. And we'll start off by verifying a quorum of the board, which we have here for attendance. We have Justin Casey, Shanda Swartz, Heather Fitch, and myself, Rob Smith. I am currently the president. Shanda is the vice president. Justin is the treasurer. I am serving as a stand-in secretary, which we'll address that in a moment. And Heather is in the role of being herself. That is her job tonight. So we do have a quorum of the board. A quorum for this board would be 3 members, just like if we had a 5-person board running right this second. So the first thing I want to do is the board has had a chance to review and approve the last meeting minutes. Is there anybody on the board who had any other discussion that they wanted to throw out about the meeting minutes, or did you guys get a chance to look at those?
Yes, everything looked great on it.
Reviewed. I'm good with it.
Justin, I got yours earlier. So I'll throw out a quick motion to review which we have and approve the last meeting's minutes. I believe those were from July 10th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
And I also vote yes. So pass with a 4-4. All right, so quick thing I'm going to throw out here. We do have 4 people, as you see. We are missing 1 person because Amy stepped down. She had some personal reasons. Nobody made her upset. She was very gracious when she reached out. She was very kind in the words that she said about the other board members and her appreciation of being a part of the board, and very kind in her appreciation of the community that they entrusted her. And she was sorry that she needed to step down, but she had her own personal reasons. So we do have an opening. We were able to fill 1 opening relatively quickly, and I'll talk about Heather in a moment, but we're going to go ahead and open that up and just say, hey, if there's somebody out there who's watching this, or if you know somebody who might be interested in joining, if you could just ask them to email the board at almondglenhoa@gmail.com. Just put in their board member in the subject line. We would love to reach out to them. We're kind of looking for somebody with some talents or skills that they could bring to the table. The board votes for replacements, so it's not like a normal community vote, which is how we've kind of had to handle a couple of these. So
Rob, I'm sorry. Is that the tornado warning going off? Does anybody else hear it a minute ago?
I have the sound thing on. I always laugh and say it's a train going by. So I grew up in the Midwest. Tornado warnings don't mean nothing to me.
Okay, all right.
Everybody meet at my house.
I'll be in my bathroom.
Yeah, I run down here. I got a basement. Everybody in the basement, and we'll finish the meeting. But yeah, if our phones start going crazy, we'll jump in on it. So that said, if you're interested in joining the board, or if you know somebody who's interested in joining the board, reach out to us. We would love to talk to you. We've talked amongst ourselves. We have a few ideas. We may be reaching out to some people, but we're open to hearing from some other folks. So with that out of the way, I want to throw into let's talk about Heather and how she ended up on the board. So Heather, real quickly, if you would this would be your opportunity for kind of a nomination speech. You're already there, but like, say we were in the community meeting and you were going to tell everybody like why you'd want to be a member of the board. We already know, but we'd love to kind of share that.
Okay, thank you. It really was not on my radar to join the board. Unfortunately, I was one of the ones that never really paid too much attention to board meetings, catch them hit or miss. I really had a lot of trust in the board and where it was at. And probably the thing that turned it around for me was when I got the letter for the amendments. This was in June. And after reading through those, there's not many things that I've felt going on in the community that I felt really passionate about. And that was one of the things when I got that I didn't really feel like the wording of the amendments was a good thing for not necessarily the community with the way that it was worded, but how it came about. And I guess I was just kind of taken off guard. I wasn't prepared for that. And again, I just kind of tucked it away, but it made me take the next step, which was wondering how much that cost us as a community. And when I wanted to go and get the financials, for the first time, I was told that I needed to meet with AMG, a board member, sit down with them while I looked through the financials. Anything that I wanted a copy of, I was going to have to be paid for. And that didn't set really well with me to have to jump through that many hoops to just try to get an idea of looking at the financials so I could tell what's going on, or maybe I'd understand it. And at that point could really release it and let it go. I did not want to run for the board at our annual meeting. I didn't want to be a part of the controversy between last year's board, this year's board. I really just had my own thoughts and wanted to sit back and believe that the right things were going to be done. But afterwards, I did reach out to go over some of the financials with Rob and let him know that maybe a year down the road, when openings would open back up, I would be interested in potentially at that time a position. And he reached out to me when Andrea stepped down because I had mentioned an interest. And at that point, I did let him know I wanted to think about it over an evening, which my thought process at that point really was I can't complain about something if I'm not willing, when I have the opportunity to do something about it. And it also would give me an opportunity to look a little bit deeper into the financials that, again, I have my own thoughts on, and for, right or wrong, I just wanted to be able to understand, I guess, more on how our community worked in as a whole, and accepted the position. So I thank you very much for that opportunity, and for Andrea allowing me to take her seat at the table. And I hope that I can really be the best fiduciary to the community that I can be, because I feel like that is the most important part of being on the board, is really managing everyone's finances in the best of our abilities, and balancing that with the maintenance that needs to be done, and improving the neighborhood and keeping it up. So again, just being as one voice with the group, I love being a part of it. So thank you.
And as a matter of record here, which I'm sorry, I just slid in, JC, sorry for the delay in getting you in there. As a matter of just record, we did include a motion this evening, which will be in our notes. It was a motion to add Heather to the board of directors and fill the vacancy, and to introduce Heather tonight, which we did. That was already handled off camera. Is there any board member who wants to contest that motion or anything at this time? I don't think there was, but anybody have a problem with that? Justin, Chanda, you guys both good?
Happy to have her on board.
Thank
We just
you.
want kind of make it official for the community to see, since they didn't get to see it behind the scenes. And the same thing with in Andrea's place. She contacted very, very much just was, hey, I've got some stuff. I didn't know it was going to go the way it is, but I need to step back from this. She was very, very courteous, and same thing. I took it that she was very appreciative of the community electing her the way they did. So we hated to lose her, but it's a lot being a part of things. So we do appreciate her year of service last year, and getting us started this year. And the same thing, Jen didn't really get much of a send off either. Jen was elected, and I just want to remind everybody, she was elected to the board. Jen had the same thing. There was a lot going on. It was a lot of change up. She asked to step back, but Jen didn't initially made sure we got rolling with things, and helped us kind of bring Justin on and kind of roll things over. So the same thing, I think all of them were very appreciative of the support they got from the community. And we thank them for their time. So with that out of the way, let's roll into the first quick discussion, which I don't expect this one to go on for very long. Commercial vehicle parking came up this week. It was there were some messages sent in. Specifically, it was talking about a commercial vehicle that's parked over in a townhome area. It's parked in the parking space of the owner of the business. I think it's a business, from what I understand, that's owner operator owned. We do have, and I've talked about it in the past on the website, there are some limitations on commercial vehicles that I talked about. And the limitations are weird. The limitations are 1-ton vehicles, commercial vehicle. So it has to be a commercial vehicle, and it's got to be a 1-ton vehicle. And usually when you're interpreting that, you go by a 2,000-pound, payload, which, many vehicles have 2,000-pound payload. Some states require that vehicles have to be rated a certain way. It's very confusing on that. Was there anything from the board on this that you guys want to talk about specifically? Like, I think Justin had some experience from last year's conversations going on. I could weigh in with over the years. We kind of ran into the same thing I think that Justin was describing. So if you want to kind of talk about how last year viewed it real quickly, Justin, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah, the issue came up on the previous board, and every previous board member I believe is on the call, so please jump in if I miss anything. But the same similar topic came up on the previous board, and the decision was there are many homeowners with a personal vehicle that doubles as a work vehicle, that has some kind of branding on it. Example is like a pickup truck with a logo on the side of it. That's also used for other things. And is parked in the driveway of the homeowner's home or in the two parking spots assigned to the town homeowner, which is their home and which is their driveway essentially. And the discussion that we had on it was basically we could not enforce it fairly and equally across all of the vehicles that it possibly could apply to. And so we decided to just leave it.
And I think that was, I can tell you from a historical perspective, over the years, the community looked at the commercial vehicle thing. There's a lot of back and forth because when those original like 1 ton things were out there, it's because the average vehicle that could handle and be commercial and handle a 1 ton payload was usually this big, huge box truck style thing. So what we've done over the years is box trucks, that kind of thing. We've restricted those for the community. And usually what we do is we reach out to the business owner and we say, hey, your vehicle's gonna be towed. If it's left over here, please remove it. And they usually handle it. So that's how that's been addressed. And unless any board member wants to argue to change the way that's been addressed over the years or do something different, I kind of think that's where we are right now. How do you guys, anything from the other two on this?
I personally don't have a whole lot of thoughts on it. I feel like if it's in his own driveway and it's not bothering anybody, I just don't have a problem with it. I think it's I mean, I've driven work cars, not necessarily work trucks, but I think if it's a means to an income, if it's something that is in the way or parked where it's blocking something, maybe too heavy for on a surface lot or causing destructive issues, I see those points. I understand that it's obviously part of our rules and restrictions. So with that, I'll back it up, but I'm not going to be a fussy member on this.
Yeah, I'm good sticking with the precedents that we've used historically on this. I think it makes sense, and I think we should roll with that.
Yeah, I think that, to be clear, so that nobody later on thinks we're splitting hairs or something. Heather said in his driveway, we realize, of course, this particular one was in the parking lot of the townhomes. But again, it's in his spot. And I think when we're talking about box truck issues, we're talking about them overflowing, pushing up against other vehicles, vehicle. And it's really, I think what it comes down to is unsightliness. Like, does it detract from the neighborhood in some way? And I think that I hear the complainant when they say, I have to look at it and I don't like the way it looks, but we're also not talking about a broke down, dirty looking vehicle or something like that. If it was sitting in the driveway of my neighbor's lot, which my neighbor has had, several neighbors around me have had work vehicles over the years, wasn't obstructing anything, causing any damage, didn't break anything. So I'm the same way. I'm not going to move to do anything against that. So it kind of sounds like that's where we are on that. So I'll move on from that discussion to get to the next point. Let's talk about the dumpsters a little bit. I don't think we're going to be able to solve the dumpster issue tonight, but one thing I wanted to bring up on the dumpsters, and if there's something you guys want to dig in deeper on this, we can, but I think in the initial part, so a fence has come up and cameras have come up and signs have come up. So I kind of put those on our agenda tonight for the board to look at. So I'll throw this out here. We have done just about everything you can do with dumpsters and trash over the years. At one point, we've tried something or another. There used to be a fence around the dumpsters. People would throw dog poop bags and stuff over top as they walk by. So we'd find them all on the inside. You'd have to go and clean them up because same problem, the trash company won't take them. They just pull the dumpsters out and leave. So you have to pay to clean it up. Things would get thrown in there behind stuff. You wouldn't see it. The fence itself was a little bit of a fight sometimes. People would throw bags outside the fence. They'd throw things on the ground. So the fence didn't help. It sometimes made it look a little cleaner, but it doesn't stop anybody from doing the dumping that we're running into. So when we took the fence down and then we brought the dumpsters back, for anybody's wondering, we took the fence down because we took the dumpsters out. We went to a valet trash service. A valet trash service at the time was a little more expensive than the dumpsters. The valet trash service company we were using was going away, and they said, hey, it's going to cost $12,000 a year for dumpsters. And I literally called the guy and was like, hey, we were like your first clients down here when you came from New York. You were super cool. We've always got along really well. You've helped us out. We've helped you out. We've sold your business to other people. Can you help us out? He said $9,000. So that's how we ended up in that range. We ended up having the dumpsters go back in, but we decided let's not spend the money on a fence. One, it was a money issue, and two, it was let's see how it does when people can't hide what they're doing. Well, now they've gotten so comfortable throwing it out there that people are saying, hey, look every day. And I'm seeing it pretty often. I get it. So from there, we go to the idea of cameras and signs. I'm 50-50 on them. I think that the two big questions that would come is, do we buy some cameras, which I think trail cameras are easy. I use those in my work all the time. They're simple to put up. I've seen other people suggesting them as well. I will say that you can't go cheap. Like you can go buy the cheap ones that you put in the woods and you can throw them out there, but I think you have to spend a little bit more money on them, because license plates, if you're hoping to catch those, you're not getting those with your typical camera, because they snap a photo and they blur it out, they blast it out, or the vehicle drives through. It just doesn't work the way you would think it would. Now there's somebody who's going to come forward with a camera that's $100 and be like, look at this one photo I got. But based upon my experience of trying to capture people doing criminal acts with cameras, typically you got to go with something in the Hyperfire range, which Hyperfire makes license plate capture cameras. Tell you right now, they're $500 a camera, but they work. They have a couple things to them. One, they have IR lights that don't illuminate in a way that indicates to somebody there's a camera right here, because it's mostly probably people coming from outside the community, and those people might just steal your camera. So I think the board should consider setting in a high enough budget if they're going to do it, that they're going to handle Hyperfires. I think the other thing to argue would be, I know that they're going to be used as the dumpsters initially, but that doesn't mean we wouldn't want to use them someplace else in the community. So I would ask that the board discuss the possibility of just buying that from the common budget. You don't put that as a townhome expense. I think the common budget, which we're going to talk about in a little while, is very well funded. And I think it definitely, if we want to use it at the pool for some particular problem we're having in the wintertime or something, if we need to move them around, we could. And then the signs are super cheap. You put up some Smile You're on Camera signs. You know, sometimes the cameras might not even be there if we moved them to someplace else, but that would be, like I said, I think probably the bigger problem is from outside the community, but maybe if people know that their photo is going to be posted to the website, that would slow them down. So open that up for some quick discussion, and then we can go off motions based off anything you guys come up with. I think I've said enough. I'll mute.
I know just from my personal experience with signs, they're very inexpensive. You can get a good quality, like metal reflective sign, like, you know, same type of material as like a stop sign and stuff, but, you know, smaller for this situation. Those are only like $35 to $50. You know, so I definitely think signs would be beneficial there. As far as the placement of the cameras, you said, do those cameras require like any kind of like internet access to work properly, or power? Are they battery powered? Can you talk a little bit more about that particular camera, because I'm just not familiar with that brand?
Yeah, so they're either, some of them are rechargeable, some of them are battery operated, but they're battery operated. No power, no plugs are required. You buy cables that can secure them to telephone poles, fence posts, things like that. So you put them in a position where they're difficult to get to, and they're cable tied to the location, and they're battery powered. Now, somebody can steal them. That's always something to consider, and I want to make sure people know that. So that's part of the worry that comes with these things. But it's up to you guys now. And we can go with the cheaper route with just some basic cameras that capture people coming through the area. So if you wanted to set a lower budget for this, we could buy less expensive cameras, see if that helps. And if we're like, gosh, buy once, cry once, that's up to you guys. What do you guys think?
Is the battery powered, when you say that, does it just pick up motion when something comes in front, or is it a constant recording? It seems like if it was a constant recording, those batteries would run down pretty fast.
Yeah, these would be a motion-based capture, which is part of why the less expensive ones, the ones that people would put out on a trail to catch somebody poaching in their area, or to even just see deer or something moving around, those are good for that. But the ones that I'm talking about are actually designed for capturing criminal activity on more of a level. They're marketed to law enforcement quite a bit. So, but they are battery powered. They usually, they say they last 6 months, if I remember correctly. Some of them will advertise a year, 3 months, depending on the amount of activity. I think if you put them focused on the dumpsters, you're probably replacing those batteries or recharging the batteries once a month. I would argue, realistically.
Do we need two to catch the dumpster? Or is it like two different angles, or what are your thoughts on the two versus just one?
So what I've always found with cameras is every time we have one, we're like, I wish we'd had two. If we have three, I wish we'd had four. You know, it's always you need one more, because you'll set it up and you're like, that'll catch the angle, and then car pulls in and it pulls out, and you're like, if we'd have had one catching from the other angle, we'd caught the plate.
Got it.
You know, and if it's an outside of the community thing, and we put up signs about, there's specific signage you can do talking about trespass and illegal dumping. You put up those signs, you have them posted properly. You can contact law enforcement, give them the information, and they can follow up, and you could ask that those people be cited. Or we could go with the civil forfeiture type argument, where we basically offer, instead of them having to pay for the fine that would go with it, they could pay the community a fine, and we would not press charges. So there's different options we could do there. Same thing that
As far
Walmart does with thieves.
the option to take the camera itself, is it put up high? I mean, obviously we don't want to make it easy, right? But is it going to be put, are you imagining on some type of a telephone pole type feature where it's not easily a grab and go type of thing, but, or just attaching to maybe a tree in the area, or what were your thoughts?
I feel like if we put it on a telephone pole, we definitely just get a ladder and put it up there, so it's higher than the average person can just like reach up and grab. Plus, I feel like that would give us possibly a better view of the area as well. And also just thinking about like my own personal experience with security cameras and stuff at like our rental properties. You know, I'm with Rob. I don't want to go with the cheapest option on this, because every time we've tried one of the cheaper options, it's not worked nearly as well as the more expensive ones. But have we looked into the one that Garrett Burris had mentioned on the Facebook page? What was it again? Like Flock or something like that. He posted a link on the Facebook page where you can like request a free demo for the neighborhood. And, you know, I'm just curious how that would compare with the ones that Rob has personal experience with. I mean, I do value what Rob's opinion on this, since he does have firsthand experience with the ones he's recommending, but I'm always curious about the other options available too.
So I have a law enforcement login for Flock. We use Flock quite a bit. We use it. Flock is tied in with a system where I can log in. I can see cameras all across the nation. They're excellent. They're a monthly service, and they're expensive. It's been a while since I looked at pricing, but they were somewhere in the neighborhood at one time of $1,000 per month or something like that for neighborhoods. You need an entrance camera, you need an exit camera, you need an entrance camera, you need an exit camera. So we would need 4 cameras for our typical setup in our neighborhood. So they're very pricey. And they're really more for, like I said, they're great for law enforcement, because somebody comes in the neighborhood, smashes out windows throughout the neighborhood, and then comes back and steals a car. You can catch the plates of the cars. But I'll also tell you from my experience, you get the license plate of a stolen car coming in the neighborhood, and then you get the license plate of your stolen car and another stolen car leaving, because they stole a car someplace and they use that one to go commit crime. So they're also for catching plates and stuff like that. They're not really for watching activity at the dumpsters. So I don't think in this case I would think they would be a good option. But I do have a login for there. I can for the Flock side of things.
Well, I mean, just knowing that you have experience with both of those brands, that makes me feel even better about your recommendation.
I'm glad you asked, because I don't think I saw where you asked about Flock, but yeah, a good one. Justin, you kind of been hanging out quiet. What are your thoughts? Anything?
Sure, yeah, I was just enjoying the discussion here. So on the cost of the camera, one time fee of the equipment being the $500 times two, sure. I mean, we could budget for it and make the purchase sometime in next year. And I was interested. You said the subscription fee. I think I was following you. Is the block technology a different technology than what you were talking about?
I think you said block, but I think it's flock. It's flock like
Oh,
yeah, it's
like
flock
a
like
bird.
like a flock of birds. Yeah, like
Flock
the
of birds.
cameras
Got
are a
it.
flock everywhere. Yeah, that's their marketing. Yeah, it's so that one is the one with the subscription service that you would go into, and it's very expensive, very cool, but very expensive, and also very purpose driven. The cameras I was talking about are just your standard. They're an upgraded version of a deer camera, and like I said, you can swing down to Walmart and buy um, pretty cheaply. I think Ashley was saying something about flock, how they use it in neighborhoods. But yeah, totally different purposes. But
Are there any ongoing fees associated with the not flock cameras?
no, they're just a camera that records to a chip, and when there's a problem, you
Okay.
go up and collect them.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. We'll budget for it. We'll make the purchase. That sounds good to me.
And Rob, just reading some of the comments here, can you clarify if the fee we would collect or if we got law enforcement involved, if that would be for anybody other than townhome owners, or would that be enforced upon anybody outside of the community of Almond Glen?
So to be completely honest, that's a weird question. Anytime you're talking about somebody who lives in the community, it's a little bit weird as to whether or not you can, like if somebody goes up to the swimming pool who's not supposed to, but they live here, law enforcement will not arrest for trespass if they jump the fence in the middle of the night and go swimming. Now, we as the board, according to our CCNRs, we can absolutely restrict their voting rights, and I think it's up to 60 days. You can lock them out so that they can't use the common areas, things like that. So I think we have certain things we could do. I don't know about illegal dumping and stuff like that on a person who lives in the neighborhood. So the answer to that is a resounding, it depends. And we could look into it. That would be your typical law type answer, but definitely worth exploring on that side of things. Minimum, if you lived here in the neighborhood and your vehicle and your face were suddenly posted on Facebook or not Facebook, on the website, and then somebody would grab that from there and post it to Facebook and be like, hey, really appreciate this guy from the neighborhood. That might be, most people don't like to be embarrassed. So I think knowing that kind of thing would happen, and historically when somebody's committed a crime or done something in the neighborhood they shouldn't do, we've posted it up on the face or on the website, and it gets pushed to the Facebook. So if that answers the question. Was there anything else that popped up that I didn't see?
No, but thank you for clarifying.
Thank you for paying attention to I can't keep up because I'm getting dings all over the place. Anything else on that? I think I had that I was maybe going to consider a motion on that tonight, but I don't think we don't do a motion necessarily. I think we just, knowing that we've got an idea on it, and then we can ad hoc discussion on it, and we'll post. What we're doing is if we have some ad hoc decision where we make a decision outside of these meetings, we just put it in the next minutes. So we would let the community know later on, hey, we've gone ahead and moved forward with the cameras. But I think cameras and signs kind of sounds like everybody's on board with that. And how did you guys feel about that coming from common expenses, not necessarily just townhomes, so that if we used it in the community?
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with it since, there is a case where it could be used in other parts of the neighborhood.
Yeah, crime is not specific to one side of the community or the other. Common sounds good.
That was very Batman of you right there. Crime is not specific. I like it. All right, so cool. So we'll just kind of somewhat table any motions on that, but it sounds like that's the direction we're moving. So for everybody who's been trying to figure out what we can do next, that's the direction we're headed for now. I'm gonna run through some irrigation repairs that were done recently. It was $551 to get some irrigation taken care of. That they're I think it's on the schedule to be repaired, but it's been approved, it's been done, or it's been set up to be done. Entrance to Caprington Drive, zones 1 and 2 and 3. 1 had to replace a spray head, 3 nozzles. 2 had to replace a rotor tip and 3 nozzles. Zone 3 had no issues. Zone 1, a rotor also needs to be replaced and adjust 2 rotors. And then at the entrance to Almond Glen Drive, zone 1, 2 nozzles. Zone 2, adjust 2 rotors. Zone 3, replace 1 spray head and 2 nozzles. Zone 4, replace some nozzles. So that was $551 worth of work that needed to be done, and it's underway. So you're seeing some weird sprays and stuff like that going on in the community, where the heads are broken, we were working on it. But still, go ahead and give us a heads up just in case it's not one of those. But if it's at one of the entrances, we're on it. Board communication update. I'm just going to kind of throw this out here. We didn't get a chance to really announce it. So there was a lot of questions about why didn't we put stuff on Facebook, and well, what's going on. So I'm going to throw out here. So the website's going to be our primary source of communication. We got a couple things going on with the website we're working on. There's something called the PHP, which is basically the environment which a website operates in. That needs to be updated. The last time I went in and updated it with my level of knowledge, I broke the website and I had to go out and say, hey, and I got a community member to help me fix it. So rather than break it again, I reached out to Shanda's husband, Eric, who knows about computers and actually talks to people about computers and isn't just somebody playing on a computer like me. And he's going to take a look for us. So we need to do a back end update there, kind of clean that up. We have an email issue, which is why the newsletters have not been going out. So if you're not getting a newsletter, it's not just you. I did a test today where I exported all of the newsletter email addresses completely out of system, but only mine in, tried to send it. It's not going through. It's something with GoDaddy. So Eric's going to take a look at that. Something that was talked about multiple times was a security certificate. So we go from an HTTP to an HTTPS. There's an expense tied to that. Eric felt like and again, I'm talking about Eric Schwartz, he felt like there was a possibility of getting a free certificate that he could use. So he's going to explore that for us. If not, he'll give us a recommendation on what to do next. And we're exploring the possibility. I talked with Eric about the possibility of when you go to the website, maybe you have like a front page that gives you some basic info. And then you go to click through to more, and there's a login of some sort. Now, I don't know if that's going to be a single login where we just have a generic one that everybody in the community knows, or we'll create individual ones for everybody. And then initially, if he contacts me back and says, hey, I can put it on right now, and it's going to be Almond Glen HOA, and the way to get in is password 123 or something like that. That's what we'd probably go with just to get something started, because people have asked for years if we could put it behind a door of some sort. So if we can, we're going to do it. YouTube, we're using that as a supplement to the website. Your primary information is from the website. YouTube is just a supplement. That is a way for us to, sometimes it's easier. I like to communicate verbally. I like for people to see my body language. I read body language for a living. That's how I work. So I like you to be able to see how I say things and hear me, because sometimes when you read it, you take your own emotions and you apply it to my words. So it comes off very angry, and I'm like, you're the one that's angry. I was typing that very happy. Or maybe I am upset about something and I want you to hear it. So I like to add YouTube as a supplement. I do not go through and like transcriptions and stuff from what I say in a video. These are different. We'll do minutes for this, but very nice of Kelly Sullivan, who's done that many times, and that's super sweet. And that is totally on her. She watches the videos for you and then she puts it in there. But I would encourage you, if you read something, you're like, I don't like that, go watch a video. So we use that as a supplement to the website. Social media is just turning out to be completely unreliable. And I cited a couple things. Not all of our members have social media. Specifically, I mean, Justin isn't even on social media. So we have board members over the years who've not been on social media. Communication gets riddled with comments and arguments. I don't care if you want to post about, I don't like what Rob did here, or I don't like what Shanda said, or Heather has angel wings behind her. What does she think she is? Some sort of angel. Minus a halo, or, whatever you want to say. And you can go off in those comments for as long as you want. But the problem is that gets too riddled, where if I went on and I was like, hey, everybody, want to let you know this, the next thing I know, it's so swamped with all this negativity or arguments, we can't communicate effectively that way. We did have a social media site, or it was Facebook specifically, that was set up for the Almond Glen HOA. Last year's board was like, we're not using it, so they turned it off. When they tried to re-enable it this year, it's gone. And that's something with the Facebook. It's not, they didn't go in and like delete it. They just were like, we'll turn it off for now. It's gone. So we can't even get it back. And then there was another thing. members and board members share information and links. So if you're a member of the community and you know there's a meeting coming up that maybe not everybody knows about, and you want to go in and grab the link or share the website to the social media page of your choice, thank you. Go ahead and do that. Feel free to share it out. Going on and telling everybody, hey, there's a meeting, nobody told anybody about it, but not sharing it isn't really helping drive them to it. At least tell them, go to the website so they know where you got that info. Because we want to share it out there. I don't even mind sharing it myself, but it's coming from my personal page, and then people will be commenting instead of just knowing there's a meeting. So share the stuff out, let people know about it. Subscribe to the website once we get fixed again, that'll be fixed, and then subscribe to the YouTube so you know that things are going on. And then what's the last thing? Oh, the other thing I was going to say is the problem with social media is, remember with that HOA or the Almond Glen page, the I forget what they're calling it now, but the Almond Glen neighborhood page, we're not moderators on there. I used to be a moderator of that page years ago. I didn't think it was right for a board member to be a moderator. People could go in and turn off comments, delete your posts or whatever, and we just don't want to get into that. So rather, we got some people in the community have been banned from that website. So not everybody can communicate. So just not going to do it. We don't want to riddle that page with arguments. We can avoid it. So go to the website. Amendment vote update. Real quickly, just run through this. There were 60 responses total, 15 yes votes for the capital contribution, 23 yes votes for the parking, and 16 yes votes for fines. So that's all that came back on that. So that's a no. All right, real quick on the budget, and then we're gonna just kind of turn it over because it's 7:49. I want to get rocking. Some references that I can kind of throw you out to that may or may not come up tonight. Video that I created on August 9th titled Budget Overview Discussion. That's on YouTube. Video Justin created on August 18th titled AG Meeting Preview, August 2024. That one's probably going to be super helpful for tonight. CC&R's bylaws, articles of incorporation, of course, federal and state laws, and local Lancaster County laws. The 2023 budget, 2024 budget, 2018 and 2023 reserve study, various documents created by the AG Treasurer in 2023 and 2024, which he may present some of those tonight or talk about them. And then the last thing I'll say before we get rolling is I had some discussions with Danielle from AMG. Ashley, remind me, what's Danielle's title these days?
Director of Operations.
There you go. So Danielle, when I first met her, Danielle was Ashley, and Daisy is Danielle's mom. She was the person who ran our local. Is Daisy the president now? Has she risen to that spot?
Yes, she is the president.
Yep. So we came in with some folks who've risen up through. So rather than having to get into a big, huge thing, I just called over and was like, hey, let's talk about these late fees. The late fees are not a huge deal, but we had a 50-50 split with them. You pay a $20 late fee, $10 of that would go to the community, $10 would go to AFG to cover their financing expenses for handling that extra payment processing and everything. The new contract came in, it was 100% to AMG, which is a bummer because we are very listed, like you can only spend dues on these things as outlined in our CC&Rs. So I called over and I asked, I was like, hey, would you guys go with a 50-50 split again? Would you be willing to do that? They have agreed to that through corporate Danielle let me know today that yes, they're happy to do that for us. So they're going to send over an amendment. We'll sign into that just saying, hey, we're going to go back to a 50-50 split. So it's not a big win, but I mean, if it's $1,000, if it's $2,000, that's money that we can use if we decide to give it to the social committee or take part of it and do something with it. So we can use it for where we want to. So with that announcement out of the way, that's all I got. Just going to turn the budget discussion over to the board, and I'm going to referee and moderate. If I can mute.
Okay, I guess I'll start off because Rob, you did a wonderful video that explained I think your way of splitting costs or ways that have always been done previously, I guess, to this, and how the townhomes and the single family, everything was split. Very simple to understand. And gratefully, Justin did a fantastic video yesterday that kind of laid out all of his finances. Just coming onto the board, I will say it was it's a lot to try to sift through where all the numbers come from. And I'm not the kind of person that likes to just have a figure and take it for face value. I want to know, how did that number come to be? And where did it come from? What was our potential budget? What is our actual to date? Are we on track? Are we not on track? And usually I can pretty pick up on things pretty fast. What I found with all the different documentation though is that the figures change. And it's been very confusing for me to follow kind of like that one line item chain through from 2022 of what we had, 2023, 2024, and looking ahead to what 2025 is going to be. So I did have a couple questions, because I know, Rob, when you broke it down that we have all either townhouse expenses or we have common area expenses that are split between the townhomes and single family. All common sense makes perfect sense to me. Justin, when I was looking at some of your numbers, and I think we had discussed different options, way 1, 2, and 3. And part of that was to separate the neighborhood geographically, which my confusion there comes in twofold. First is, and all your figures then throughout the video were ran on those figures, is I get the first question, the pool area. So the pool area you had down as a single family expense as far as the landscaping goes. And so guess, since all the figures were ran on that, has that been decided, or was that decided from the last board? Is that something that you personally have decided? Again, I know you gave ways 1, 2, and 3, but only that way had the figures attached to it. And as a single family owner, I'm looking at, our dues went up this last year. Where did that additional money go? And I'd like to be able to, see a point of knowing, okay, I can definitely see that that went in these particular places. And what I am seeing is a lot of expenses that were moved from common area to now there's just a single family expense. And as a single family owner, I can just say, I didn't know that we had expenses that were only for single families. The other, I guess, part of that where it was marked geographically, you had also talked about the townhouse entrance and the use and the main entrance of the neighborhood use, and having those both be common areas, I'm okay with. I guess I'm just questioning the single family and when that became all single family taken care of and the full expense going to the area around the pool.
Yeah, is that question for me? Great. I'll go ahead and dive into a screen share now. And it will take a minute to answer your question here with the documents. Host has disabled participant screen sharing. Rob, is that something that you can help me with? Is Rob frozen?
That's what I'm thinking.
Thinking
frozen.
Rob might be frozen.
Oh,
Oh, there he is.
Rob's not frozen anymore.
it's a little blurry.
Yeah, Rob's still on mute, Rob, if you're talking to us at all.
Sorry, I was on two different screens. You should be able to screen share now. I was on one screen where I was watching the chat in case anybody pops in with anything on the chat, and I've also got another thing. Oh, you should be able to share now.
Yeah,
Yay.
yeah, awesome. So, yeah, I'm able to do the screen share now. So, yeah, so particularly for the landscaping, right? And I hope everyone on the call had a chance to watch the video. So particularly on the landscaping, I think that some of the confusion has been, what is a common area? And that's something that moving into the community was never really defined for me anyway. So Heather, you shared your story about you coming on the board, what it was like for you, and for me coming on the board, I think that the experience was very similar. It's we have all these townhome only expenses, and then we have common expenses for the landscaping. And so I was kind of led to believe that the only thing that we have in common is the pool landscaping. And so in that particular sense, okay, yeah, I mean, paying for the pool is something we all use, and the landscaping there is something that we all use. But I want to go back to how the landscaping was split up under US lawns. This is prior to about October of 2023 is when we switched to Yellowstone. And so we have this breakdown of Almond Glen townhomes pay this, and common open spaces pay this. And so the breakdown there was that the Almond Glen townhomes pay this, and they pay 100% of this. And then the Almond Glen Common is divided by 295, paid for by everybody. So what kind of composes this common, right? And so let's take a look at the service map. And so this service map is something that we didn't have in the U.S. Lawns contract, so well laid out. So if you saw the video, you were able to see basically the way that then Yellowstone quoted us out on the. This is an email from Yellowstone here. Didn't have this in my video. I went and found it. It basically did something similar to what US Lawns did, and said townhome side 65%. They think we're part of two different associations. Actually, the way that we asked them this question, if you read the body of the email, it says, I looked at the measurements, and below is the percentage of each association. So the townhome side of the community being 65, and the HOA side being 35, which is really on the geographic separation. So beyond that, I think that's just the way that we've gotten it presented to us. But
Wait a
if we
minute,
go back,
can I just put a hold on that? So can you just answer whether single family homeowners are solely paying for a common area expense by the financials that you put out in your video?
well, so then we have to ask, what is the common area expense?
I
No,
think
I'd
it's a
like to
pretty
ask
simple
what the
yes or no.
single family expense is. What do you feel is a single family only expense? Because we've never
I would
had
s-
that before. And so that's where I'm just confused with how all of a sudden, after we've been in HOA for, I don't know how many years, maybe Rob can answer, 12, 14 years, how we have a single family only expense.
So everything that we can look at tonight can be changed. And so the way that we can change it here is I can put a percentage here, 22, and it
I-
changes.
I-
And it's very,
I understand it can
right?
change.
So
That's a huge deal though. But when you do a video and you're talking all the way through and you get to the end of how much is going into reserves and how much the single family is underfed through the dues and where all the money is at, that changes by the figures right here that yes, you can change, but you're leading people to believe that our single families were not paying enough prior to this. And all these figures matter. The insurance, the percentages that you have laid out have moved again to the favor of the townhomes from where it was. The lawns have moved in favor to the townhouse is where they were. Single families now have the burden of an expense that was common area. I'm just seeing, I don't think you even want me to go through all the different line items, but all those line items are changing the bottom line of year end, how much is left over from single family versus townhomes. And I'm all about, what's fair is fair and having it be where it lies, and how the dues are adjusted one way or another from there. That's a whole nother, conversation, but it's all based on these figures here, that every time you change a percentage just once, just 1%, that makes a huge difference on the dues that are paid from single families to townhomes. So that's just where
So-
I'm having a
So,
struggle
so
getting
they
these figures
don't
correctly.
make a tremendous amount of the difference on the dues. They do make a difference on the net income. And so, if I change the percentages back to the way that they were all of, since when we carved out the townhome, so we want to change 90% to 91%. Okay, that changes the net income by $500. We want to change 0% to 22%. That changes $4,200. Okay, I mean, that's what we can talk about. So the sensitivity analysis on this stuff is we're talking about how to change the net income allocations. I'll keep doing this, Control Z, Control Y, Control Z, Control Y. This is really what we're talking about.
Justin,
Can I jump
don't
in?
think
Can
that
I-
is
yeah.
what we're talking about. Like,
I think
I
it
just
is
wanna-
because a broad,
No,
hold on,
no,
wait.
no, to
What
let me,
other
please.
things in the community besides insurance and landscaping are we really talking about that has been shifted back and forth? Or what exactly besides the insurance allocation and the landscaping allocation is there confusion about?
Well, I think it has to do with how you're allocating it, because you say here specifically like single family homes and townhomes. It's not single family homes and townhomes. It is the way you've got it laid out here. It is, but the way it should be based on how we have done it previously and what is fair to the neighborhood, to all of the homeowners, both single family home and townhome. So everybody pays their fair share. If you look at if you go to way 3 there, that line where it says all single family home only expenses, that shouldn't be single family home only. That should be common, everybody
So,
in the community.
If we want to
because
change this allocation to 295 and we can change the net income therefrom, again, so the sensitivity analysis on that is the 4.2. So we could do that, but I don't think that we have ever had an honest conversation as a community about what is a common expense as it relates to the landscaping, because what is being used in common, we've never had the conversation on which of these expenses are single family home and which of them are common, right? So right now, if I change that allocation to 21.7%, that means that dollars are flowing from this side of the community to this side of the community.
So does
Okay, that's fine.
let's talk about this. So the
Wait.
the
No,
townhouses do not
I let you guys
want to
talk.
be
You're
a
not
part
even
of the
letting me talk
pool.
through the service map. You're not even letting me talk through the service map. So if we put the allocation to 21.7%, which is the way it's always been, then dollars flow from this side of the community to this side of the community, and that's fine. But then dollars do not flow at all from this side of the community to this side of the community. And there are spaces here that are common spaces, particularly this gigantic grass field near Harrisburg, particularly the entrances, particularly these strips of yellow. So I think that, and anyone watching this back would be probably interested to know that a townhome owner, did you know that a townhome owner pays for the patches of grass on Kilchurn, but there are single family owners, particularly children, who ride ATVs on this patch of grass. So dollars are flowing from, one more time, from this side to this side, but $0 are flowing from this side to this side as it relates to landscaping. And I just think we should get it a little tighter, right? If we
And I-
want to
Actually, I-
allocate it 21, go ahead. If
let
we
me
want to
throw- let me-
allocate it
let me throw
21.7%,
one-
that's fine.
Yeah, let me throw one thing in just for historical stuff. So the way the landscaping contract was broke up in the past was a similar map to this, but because Eric Barnes was the one doing it, because he didn't want to be the one that somebody said later, well, you did your numbers the way you did them. He went to the landscaping company and he said, because we're not talking about just like mowing grass, we're talking about bales of straw and stuff like that. Like there's bales of straw that go in areas that down through Almond, Glen, and at both entrances and stuff like that, and all through the yards. So he said, what is a townhome expense? Like what is something that services the townhome area, and what is something that services the common area? And common was like the entrances. So when they gave the percentage, that it was based upon what the landscaping company said, well, this is a townhome thing and this is a single family. And I think that if the question is, hey, we brought in a new vendor and we need to make sure that we're allocating properly common versus townhome, I would agree with you. Like common spaces would include by the roadway, both entrances. I think that's all historically the way it was broke out by US Lawns when they set it up. That big patch up there was all part of it. That's just the mowing though. When you talk about any other work that's done though, it's either single family or no, sorry, it's either common or townhome. So that was how they broke it out. And we may need to go back to Yellowstone. But what this divide is, and I'll just put this out there because this is one thing that we were like, wait a minute, I have a question. So the line that you drew in before, that geographical line, made everything at the pool, everything on Almond Glen, everything at the entrance, landscaping wise, which sprinklers are included in landscaping. So I'm guessing that's part of it, but I didn't ask. Landscaping wise fell to the single family homeowners only. So I think what many single family homeowners would be shocked to find out is that the budget last year allocated the entire landscaping project that was done at the pool, which was 16,000, 15,000, something like that, was paid for by single family homeowners only. That is a common expense, and that's a big deal. And I get it. You can be like, well, pennies, 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 but yeah,
I hear you. I hear you.
matters.
Listen, nothing is paid for by anyone right now because we can change how the numbers are allocated for 2023 and flow them through to 2024 and make those adjustments. That's fine. So if we want to go back to the vendor and get it tighter on saying, right now, I mean, you see the exact email, right? The association, contact, she just split it up halfway. So we go back to her and we say, hey, split it up tighter to get the field on Harrisburg to be common, to get the entrances to be common, to get the strip along Harrisburg Road to be common. That's fine. And we can allocate it 21.7% to the townhomes. But part of this is also education. I didn't know that as a townhome owner, I didn't know that the Almond Glen Lane was serviced by Yellowstone, and that two patches along Kilchurn and Caprington were serviced by Yellowstone. And so as a townhome owner.
Well, and I think to be one of the things that we were kind of throwing together and talking about and trying to work through, and just so people know, like there's been conversations amongst the board about this stuff, trying to get prepared for having these bigger conversations. One of the things that we were thrown off on was this changeover, and I think it's important to point out, US Lawns was a company that was there that was replaced last year with Yellowstone. So this decision of how this stuff was broke up was decided last year, and to include the decision, and I guess I would wonder, was it a board decision? Was everybody on the board aware that the entire landscaping project of the pool was going to the single family homeowners, or was that just like it just kind of flowed because of the way things were divided?
We were unanimous on everything as a board in terms of the voting, but the important thing to know here is we have such control over the internal work papers that allocate out what is a single family home expense, what is a townhome expense. It's very unique. It's one of the only communities that AMG has that actually does this. So if we want to, and I'll flip to the balance sheet. Basically, what's going to happen, right, is we'll agree on 2023, however we want to allocate it. Okay, we'll agree on 2024, however we want to allocate it. And then we'll take the 2022 year-end 2022, which is beginning of year 2023 numbers that were in the 2023 reserve study. If you're following me, right? We'll take the townhome dollars that were presented in the Jan 1 2023 numbers that were given to the reserve advisors for the March 23 study, and we'll add 2023 net income as calculated and agreed upon, and we'll add 2024 net income as calculated and agreed upon to the townhome reserve fund. And we'll do the same thing for the townhomes contribution to the general reserve fund. And then we'll get that number posted here in the equity portion of the balance sheet. So there's nothing that's so far gone that we can't come to some sort of number and agreement on. And, you know, the last 15 minutes of discussion, maybe 20 minutes of discussion, again, we're talking about the sensitivity analysis on the 2023 numbers, total change of $5,000. That's fine. But what about the transaction at the pool this past year? We can carve out that transaction and indeed all of 2024 landscaping and place it on the basis of 21.7 and the balance. So nothing has been so set in stone because we have tremendous discretion over what ends up being a single family home and what ends up being a townhome net income, and then 100% of the single family home net income goes into the general fund reserve, and the portion of the townhome net income goes into the general fund reserve, with the balance going into the townhome fund reserve. And I think that that's probably something that a townhome owner would be surprised to know as well. I certainly was when I got here. There are townhome dollars in the general fund reserve. It's not much. It's maybe $80,000 of the general fund reserve is a originally contributed townhome dollar. So the townhome net income goes to pay toward both the general fund reserve and the townhome fund reserve. So that's a separate point, but
I
Yeah,
guess,
so wait a
I
minute,
guess,
wait,
you
wait,
understand what
back
I'm
up.
yeah, that's
saying?
normal. That's normal
Yeah.
though. And that's
No,
why, and
I
that's
understand that, but
exactly, yeah.
do you get what I'm saying though? That there's nothing that is so far gone that who paid for
Oh
what in
yeah,
2023, who paid for what in April
right.
of 2024.
I don't think that's that, you know, we're really questioning. I mean, all these figures obviously can be moved around. The question that my original question was on the single family only expenses that you had, is that something that was determined and agreed upon, that should be single family only expenses based on the previous board that you were on? Or was this an idea that you just came up with?
An idea that I just came up with. So as I'm presenting the numbers, it's a workshop fashion. We're talking through the numbers. I'm at the
And
starting
that's why I'm
point
trying to
for
figure
what the
out
Yellowstone.
where these ideas came from. Like, are they,
We're
are you
the
just
starting
throwing
point
out
is the email.
an idea that we should have single family
No,
expense?
the starting point is this email here, right? So HOA TOA, right? 6535. So then we're going back into the service map and we're saying HOA TOA, Monica split the line practically. And so from there we could split up everything here and put it 21.7. And that's
Justin,
what
that's not,
the
that's
sensitivity
not
analysis
even,
is. What where's the disconnect here?
I think so. The disconnect is this, and I think what we want to make sure that we were right on, because there was a lot of back and forth last year as to how these numbers are being done, and we didn't know how they were done, and we want to make sure that anybody who's watching later knows that the entire board last year was aware that the single family homeowners only paid for all of the mowing at the lawn. And I know we can move numbers now, but we weren't here to move numbers. Had the board been voted back in, they would have continued to spend single family homeowner dollars only on mowing the pool, doing any landscaping at the pool, replacing all those pool projects. And that is something that as a single family homeowner, had I known that specific detail last year, I'd have been like, what? I was already frustrated, but I didn't know what was happening. I just felt like it wasn't. So we're a little taken aback on it. And we appreciated you kind of breaking it down for us this week, but we want to make sure that we're talking in front of the community. The community knows if you saw landscaping being done at the pool and you're a single family homeowner, you paid for it. If you're a town homeowner, you did not. And that is a common expense. And I think what we need to do as a community is very clearly talk
It's a
to what a
common
common expense
expense
is.
also on Harrisburg Road, and that's not being right
That's
now allocated.
But that's what your board decided. That's what they decided last year. You guys brought in Yellowstone.
No. The board
The board hired
provided
Yellowstone.
the board hired
And
Yellowstone.
are you not the point of contact to when you get this map to sit here and regardless of how it comes out, I agree that area along Harrisburg, that's common
100%.
space, fine. These
Yep.
few areas down here that are in the middle of our community or those little corners, common area, fine, agreed upon. I mean, but
So how did this start as we were going to workshop the numbers together to now we're talking about everything that
We
is
want to know.
always
We want to
right?
know how we got to where we are, because honestly, we think once we're done, we're going to
we can
find
get to where
out.
we are. We can
Yeah,
we
but
can
hear
we
me-
can
hear
get to
me.
where we are. So
The question's been
we started
posed.
at the email.
But the
We started
question's
at
been
the
posed.
email,
Let
and now we
me
want to
answer
get
the
to
question. The
we
question's been posed to
Right
how
there.
did we get, why are we having this discussion? The reason we're having this discussion is because we want to make sure, because we're gonna come in as a board and change numbers and move things around, and that's going to affect things. To one point, we raised the dues for the single family homeowners last year, and I don't care if we raise the dues for single family homeowner. I'm there. It didn't affect anything. I've always paid 160. I pay more. So, because I never want to be the guy who was on the board who's behind, and I predicted what they were going to be many years later from Sid, and I've always paid that amount. So I have an overage. So I don't care about raising dues personally, but we raised the dues with single family homeowners $36,000. We did not raise the town homeowners. That suggests the townhomes had all the money they needed to pay all their bills and take care of their reserves properly and to take care of all their projects they were going to do over there. We spent a lot of money on projects. Let me finish. We spent a lot of money on projects, and I want to know where that money came from. And I think when it's all over with, the single family homeowners paid for this stuff so that the townhomes could float. And I think they're going to find out the townhomes are in serious deficit. Serious deficit.
That's an opinion. Listen, we're talking about $4,000 going from this side of the community to this side of the community, and
I
we
actually
can
think it's a lot
still
more than
make.
that.
It's not, and we can still make that change. We can still make the change to make
Right, because we're the
this
board, we can make that change.
no, but this entire area here is what, $20,000 it costs to service this area, $30,000, maybe 35 it takes to service this area. So if we want to take $20,000 here and divide it, the allocation is 64 over 295, but call it 80-20. We want to take that $20,000 and move 4,000 of the townhome dollars from here on this side to here on this side. We can do that, and we can document that, but also the allocations for this area and this side here, we need to go back to Yellowstone and get that tighter. And part of this is also education too. I don't think that the average townhome owner knows that they're not only just paying for the pool, they're also paying for Almond Glen Lane, they're also paying for the mows on Kilchurn. And so,
But wait,
part of this is just
aren't
an
we
opportunity for
also
education.
paying for the entrance to the townhomes?
Should be.
Not right now, but once we go back to Monica, yes.
And to that point, when I was saying earlier, but you guys did that's a change that was made when Yellowstone came in, because originally we asked U.S. Lawns to consider all these things that were common, and we just use a common map. I have a map someplace I could show you. Saved in our drive.
Yeah, if you want to give me the comment map, that's fine. I'll forward along to Yellowstone. I'll give you Yellowstone's email address. You can email Monica directly. We can get the same common map that U.S. Lawns did the breakdown to get the 60-40, and it might be 60-40 here.
So
which would
Justin, if you're
be
saying that
great.
that common area in the townhouse, the single families aren't paying any portion of that, that's something that you set up. If it was like that, if it was not like that under US law and we were paying for it as a common area, that was a choice then that you made to make your entrance into the townhome community a townhome only expense, so that then you
No,
turn.
we emailed Monica and asked her to divide on the basis of
But nowhere in there does
common
she have
and
a single
townhome.
family homeowner expense.
HOA, TOA, she thinks they're two totally different associations.
Well,
So
we-
we'll
get
go
the
back to
HOA,
Monica.
the common area?
I feel like we'll go back to Monica and we will get a clearer
Well,
picture.
but on that, Justin, you're saying that you took that letter and that's how you've made all your figures. So where in this letter, though, does it talk about a single family only expense?
Can we make the figures together? Right here. That's a figure. So I made these figures, I made a video, it's a starting point, and we're talking about them partially for the purpose of education to the community on
Mhm.
what each homeowner pays for. That's the goal of all of this, to figure out, I pay so many dollars, where do my dollars go? And so
It's
flashing the
hard.
service map on the screen as a starting point, we want to change this, we can
Well,
do
the
that.
starting point from Yellowstone is that separation that you just gave. You're not following through that portion of it into our finances. You are making the finances creative for
That's
how
not
you
true.
feel.
No, that's not true.
Well, explain to me then how it got from this email that we're looking at, where it has 35% and 65%, to having single family only, common area and townhouse.
I'm gonna have to pull up an invoice. I'm gonna have to stop sharing the screen, log into the invoice software and pull up an invoice and show you that it's on the basis of townhome side, $3,000, single family home side, 1666, right? So we're being billed on that separation right now. Any of these numbers, again, the sensitivity analysis is very small on this. We're talking about what makes uh townhome net income 45.8 or townhome net income 41.5. And the difference also, what makes single family home net income 9.8 and single family home net income 14.0.
I don't know though that it can be
$4,200
just a
difference.
percentage.
A
Because
what?
to Rob's point, there are some areas that is grass only. That's just, you're just mowing the grass. And then there's other areas that also have the pine straw. I'm guessing also tree trimming, whatever. There's different portions other than just grass cutting. And so I think even more than just a percentage, if we have 10,000 and we split it 70-30, it's not necessarily 7,000, 3,000. It's breaking it down to what the actual cutting of it is. And maybe that's too micro. I don't know what's
No, I
been
mean,
done
no,
previously.
it's not. I mean, feel free, I'll distribute Monica's email address to everybody. It says, I looked at my measurements, and below is the percentage of each association. Monica thinks we're two associations right now. I looked at my measurements, so she can give you the measurements. She can give you the allocation basis that she used, and we can come to a better way to split this. But we're spending now 40 minutes talking about how we're going to allocate 4.2 grand, and this is all in a workshopped manner. So
I think it's
I'm not gonna be here standing underneath
it's
the archway of this number as if I'm going to die by 0%. We're talking
I think
about the 0%, and we're
it's
talking
worth
about it.
yeah. it's worth talking
it's
through.
worth talking about, but it's not worth some of the infighting. And I think that we can come to a resolution in a simple manner.
We can, and that's absolutely true. But I think the biggest thing is the principle of when you separate off the community and you say, hey, well, this side of the neighborhood is going to be paid for by single family homes. That means, like for instance, the pool project, which again, you could go, okay, fine, it's 13, 16,000, whatever it was, and we'll carve out 22%, and that's not that much money. That's a couple thousand that goes to the townhomes, but it starts to break down in all these little things, and that's moving forward. I think one of the things that if somebody's going to run for the board, one of the questions I know I'll ask somebody is, what's your philosophy on single family versus townhome expenses? And what I should hear is everything in this community is either paid for by everybody or by the townhomes. If it's a townhome only expense, paid for by townhomes. And is
that not
matters.
what I did here? Is that not what I did here and tried to do here? I don't think that we've ever had this level of breakout in the community before. We were able to so clearly see that each homeowner pays $68 toward the management co. Each homeowner pays $50 toward the pool. Each homeowner pays $163 annually toward utilities. That it costs townhomes standing on their own two legs $100,000 to run the townhomes, paid for only by the townhome owners, which constitutes $1,600 worth of their annual cost. I'm not sure that we would have been able to have these insights if I hadn't made this. What we're talking about, this entirety of this last 40 minutes of discussion, is whether, starting at the basis of what Yellowstone provided to us prior to this workshop and discussion, this was going to be a 295 or a 231. And I think that we landed on it being a 295. But I think that what we also landed on is that the number in the common needs to get tighter, because right now some of the common, being the entrances and the field on Harrisburg Road primarily, are townhome only, being divided by 64.
That's the way you set it up.
Yeah.
The way I set it up.
Well, we say you, it's just mean the board in general. And I think one of the key points to look at here is when we say Yellowstone did it at our direction, at the homeowners association's direction. Because when I give a map to US Lawns, and I'm looking back at the 2020 US Lawns contract, and I'm trying to remember how much it was.
I've been the way I set it up. We agreed and approved a November 2024 budget. We signed with Yellowstone on October 12th, 2023, before we even had their first invoice. All of this conversation on how much net income we're associating to single family home versus townhome is something that we're working through right now. And again, the sensitivity analysis is $4,000 worth of difference. So we can make it say whatever we want. How I set it up, I promise the previous board did not go through each one of these lines with me, because I didn't make this. I didn't have this level of detail. It was flashed right here. It was budget November 2024, 2023. We approved the budget for the entirety of 2024. And yeah, this is the way it was. So all of this is
really
just learnings from 8, 9, 10 months from then.
That really isn't the question, and I apologize for, I thought what would be a simple answer turning into a much longer discussion. I'm just going off of what you just said, Justin, that the areas along Harrisburg are something that the townhouse are paying for. The entryway into the townhouses are something that the townhouse owners are paying. That's just what you've said. So that's where I'm just replying, because that's the only knowledge I have is what you're telling me. But if Yellowstone is following the instructions that our
We
point
didn't
of
give
contact
Yellowstone
of
instructions. We asked them to split it up, and they looked at the measurements. We didn't give Yellowstone the service map that they created. They drew the line, right?
Okay, so
And so
when you're saying that
past discussion,
you're not happy
we will
with how
go
that's set up,
back to them.
you're not happy
We will
with
go back to them.
Yellowstone.
We'll go back to them, and we'll go back on the 65-35.
So we have to move forward from it. I think that's what we have to do with it. Because I mean, that's what Justin's asking for, and I can respect that he's like, hey, okay, it is what it is at this point. Let's readjust. it's important for people to understand what's going on. And some people may disagree. They may be like, I'm fine with it the way it was. Maybe they won't be, but we just wanted it out there where we can have a candid discussion about, hey, here's how things were divided up. Here's how they were going to be divided up moving forward. There was a bunch of other stuff that came up in that video that there was one comment on Facebook that I know you're not on Facebook that came up with a whole bunch of questions. And I don't know if you guys want to move on from here. I mean, we weren't going to decide any budget stuff tonight, but getting like some of these discussions out there, it sounds like we need to go back and look at Yellowstone. And I don't know, did we move to Yellowstone because they were cheaper, or was it just a better service? What, I don't even know how much money we were paying off the top of my head in with US Lawns. Is it less, more? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's more as far as the decision to move to Yellowstone. That's something I do know. I have other board members on the call who were closer to that decision. You know, I took a look at the numbers and made sense. But
Okay.
while I'm doing the screen share here, I do just want to talk about one other thing: the insurance, the insurance, right? So right now, taking a look at this, 13/15 plus 2/15 times townhome, 90% of it is allocated to the insurance, right? To the townhome. If we want to pin it straight to the Paul Cooney email, to say 91.9, that's a $500 difference. So we can do that as well. I thought it was easier to be allocating on the basis of the property coverage, right? To say, going into this email, if you want to decipher this email and draw the decision trees going from there, instead of just looking at this last sentence. Frankly, I couldn't recalculate his 91.9 off of the body of the email. Didn't make sense to me as to how we got to 91.9, but I got to 90, which kind of doing it out is actually 89.6. So if we want to change that to be 91 instead of 89.6 and have a $500 difference on the bottom line, that's also fine. I think we were talking about the change to Yellowstone. Maybe one of my former board members that I served with could speak to that more eloquently than I could.
It's more of just a thing of like, hey, did it cost more? Did it save us anything? I pulled up the US Lawns contract from 2020, and I don't have the budget stuff in front of me. It was 5124 back then. So do we need to, I guess the thing is, are we good with Yellowstone? I don't see the landscaping complaints we used to see. So if the service is good and everybody's like, hey, Yellowstone's hands down better than US Lawns, let's not discuss getting rid of US or Yellowstone. Let's just focus on getting things, appropriately allocated. And if it turns out to be zero difference, at least we're like, hey, this is how it broke out. So overall, you're over there, Dustin. You see the stuff that's going on with the landscaping. Is it overall better? Are they more responsive than US Lawns was, or are they
Oh
responsive?
yeah, heads and shoulders better, Rob. There's no comparison. It's worth the change, in my opinion.
What's our current yearly expense? Like under our current contract. I'm trying to pull them up, but I'm like dancing around all these screens.
I have the contract. I can do a screen share just a second.
So David just made the comment that Yellowstone was more, however, US Lawns was unresponsive, inconsistent, and added new expenses like ants and pine straw. But just from what I've seen, didn't Yellowstone also charge us extra for pine straw?
Yeah, I thought that was kind of something that unless it was built in with the number of bales and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Let me do the screen share. So when we got on the board in July of 2023, and speaking not as me as multiple people, but for the other board members on the call as well. The first thing we had to do was basically try to get US Lawns to respond to us. So we had miscellaneous landscaping costs that equaled effectively what Yellowstone ended up quoting us. So we had here base level of service for Yellowstone, and you can this is the old contract on US Lawns, right? So you can kind of see what they do. It was base of $50,000 And so if you back out the two packages of the pine needles and the flowers here, right, call it $10,000. So the base increase in Yellowstone cost is $15,000 more for Yellowstone to US lawns on a base, because right now if we compare apples to apples, we need to compare the 50 to the a number here that is that presented. It's not presented, but you know, you'd have to add these things. We didn't do ant control, so 55 plus I think this is 7,500 here, probably 63,000. So 63,000 compared to 50,000, $13,000 difference. If you want to include the pine needles and the flowers, you know, ironically, I don't know why. If you actually look per application, the U.S. lawns is 4,200 per pine needle application, and Yellowstone is 3,750 per pine needle application. But ignoring the pine needles, right? If you back out the pine needles and the flowers from the summary total of $50,000 here, call it $10,000. We have a base level of service to the community of $40,000, and so base level of service to the community of $55,000. I think that we felt that the needs of the community were not being serviced under U.S. lawns, a difficult vendor to manage, and was worth the increase.
Yeah, it's a big dollar amount, but I can speak to we went through a lot of and for Shanda, who was on originally, Heather, who, you know, you're popping in, I'm sure if you'd look, not really seen landscaping, I think in the real estate world you've seen it, but I can definitely say that over the years we went back and forth paying a lot of money trying to find companies that would do a good job. Somebody's coming through. Is that one of our folks? Or Robin? Sorry, Robin. I got you. There you go. I can hear a very cute child in the background there, so I'll meet you down. So I would say that $15,000 is a lot of money, but if we can manage to swing it, my recommendation to the board would be keep on trucking if you got a company that actually responds, because landscapers are very fickle at times. So as we're looking at these different things.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Rob.
It actually seems like the landscapers are doing a much better job too. I think the lawns this summer have looked much better. So I haven't had an opportunity to really look into the contract, so I don't have anything against Yellowstone, as long as we obviously can have the money to utilize that. I'm okay with it.
I'll second what Rob was saying. Like, the landscaping has definitely been a pain point for several years. So I'm with you guys. Like, if it's in the budget, let's stick with them, because I feel like they're definitely doing a better job than any of the previous companies that we have worked with.
All right, so for anybody who might be concerned that we're gonna get rid of them to save some money, I think right now that would not be the direction we would want to go. So I kind of was trying to relieve some tension there. This is a trick in interviewing. You switch away. I also like to tell people when I'm doing something in an interview and exactly what I'm doing. So I wanted to kind of pop the top, relieve some tension there for a minute, talk about something we could all agree on, which is, you know, it sounds like the landscaping company is doing a good job, and it's expensive. And I get it. Somebody could look at those numbers later and go, well, here's where you could save a ton of money, but that's rarely gone well in landscaping. So we'll have to work around that. Along the lines of landscaping, we spent quite a bit of money last year, and we'll have that information. I'll just include that as a breakout, so we don't have to talk about it necessarily tonight too detailed, but spent, Justin, off the top of your head, you broke it out earlier, and I just don't have the notes right here in front of me. Has anybody got the number in front of them of what we spent just in the townhome area on the townhome improvement, grading, that kind of stuff? The big number.
Yeah, it was about $23,000.
So okay, I didn't want to misquote and have to backpedal off. Okay, so about $23,000 in the townhome area to try to get things fixed. Now, I think everybody agrees that work needed to be done. Now, there's some back and forth over the years. I can tell you, historically speaking, grading issues were not something the board was addressing, because the board kept saying, hey, that's a builder issue. The board last year took care of grading issues. So it's done. What we got to figure out now is one thing that kept coming up, and people were ranting back and forth in the Facebook stuff that I tried to stay out of about phase 1, phase 2, and everything. I think we can definitively say after a complete review of everything, there was a general idea of we're going to go through the townhomes and see what needs done. And then a decision was made, hey, in phase 1, let's fix these problems. And then there was no phase 2 outlined. It was just, we're going to come through and see what else needs done later. So questions about, hey, where's the phase 2 map? What was the plan for phase 2? Does it exist? The answer is it does not exist. There was no phase 2 plan. Now, that's not to say there wasn't a good intention of like, in the next year, we'll move on and we'll spend some money and we'll fix these things over here. The problem we are now posed with, and something that the board will have to work through, is do we have the money to do more work over there? Because every one of us wants to. And if they kick back and forth, I've seen it on Facebook. I don't get on there very often, honestly, because I just don't need the stress. I got enough going on. But when I do get on Facebook, I read the comments. And the thing is, now that Rob's on the board, we're going to come in and we'll raise dues and say we don't have money to do anything. And I will say this. I have always repeated back what I've heard over the years from treasurers and what boards have discussed, which is in order to have the things we want to have, you have to pay for them in order to get them. And if we have the money, which I do not believe we do at this point, if we have the money to go in and do things, we're great. People will look at the reserves, and that's what we kind of have to, as a board, debate out is the reserves. What do our reserves look like? Where do our reserves need to be? And they're a floating weird number. They're all over the place. And I'm kind of summarizing discussions we've had from last week. It's hard to predict when you're going to need to replace or fix an item. It's hard to predict how much it's going to cost to fix that item. And then when that date rolls around, will you even need to fix it? So, and then, we also have to decide who's responsible for a thing and make sure that that's right. Now, the board in 2018, I think, went through and painstakingly broke out like these things are reserves that should go to the community as a whole. These things go to the townhomes. So that's where those fundamental differences could start to come in if we're off. So we need to look at that as a board, just kind of like throwing out some thoughts we'll need to work through. We need to figure out where our reserves really are. We need to figure out how much money we have. There's no increase to the dues for the townhomes last year. That is insanity in my mind because
Rob,
go ahead. You're going to say there's no reason to raise the townhome dues last year because they had plenty of money.
No, Rob, no.
No inflation?
No, Rob. Yeah, there was no inflation in 2023. That'd be great.
That's insanity.
No, Rob, I'll jump in. Not for I think you'll appreciate this jumping in.
Good.
So that people can hear it from me instead of you. So I'll introduce myself to the people on the call. Just I live in the townhomes, and I'm a townhome owner. I've lived here since January 2023. For some of the vitriol back and forth, where's my money going, things of that nature. Maybe if they heard it from me, if they've made it an hour and 30 minutes through the video, it's probable that the townhome dues will need to increase this year. So I stole your thunder, Rob. And
nope, I'm glad. Thank you. Because you know what? For that, I say thank you. Because yeah, Justin's right. He knew that I was having to bite that bullet, and I was willing to bite it for the townhome dues do have to go up. What amount? I don't know. Justin, I won't hold you to any numbers we've tossed around. Nobody has tossed out a big number yet. I'm gonna be honest. I think it's bigger than what we were talked about so far. And the goal here, I think, from listening to the board this week, has been to find a way to balance it out so that we have all the operating dollars the townhomes need and the community as a whole, and to make sure that we have all the money we need to put in reserves to make sure that the townhomes are good in the future, because we do have a fiduciary responsibility to people who live here in the future. And the depreciation, as was pointed out by our wonderful realtor who's on the board now, depreciation of your asset in front of you matters over time. So you're using it, it's being worn out, or you're experiencing it. If it's siding, you're like, I'm not using siding. Okay, you're experiencing the siding and it's wearing out over time. So we do have a responsibility to make sure we're taking care of that. So we need to make sure we have the money that we need now, the money we're gonna need then, and then we need to make sure that there's a way for people to realize, it was pointed out by multiple board members this week, and I've heard it over the years, to realize their money. So if you pay in an extra $1, you want to at least see 25 cents of that work in front of you. So time to get there, I guess, is my thing. We made a 5-year plan a few years ago that fell apart, and it was because we didn't have a way to get there fast enough. So I would ask this board to work very hard to come up with a way to rip the Band-Aid off and get there. That's kind of what I was talking about this week. And that's kind of what they've been working on. Am I summarizing some of our discussions a little bit? I'm kind of throwing in no particular angle. Justin, thank you so much for throwing your side so people heard it's not just these guys. It's not the angry single families. There's no second-class citizen town homeowners in the neighborhood. Even though we're poorly beating up on Justin tonight, I apologize, but that's kind of the way it goes when you just happen to be the last man standing.
And I didn't mean to, I just was trying to get a single answer there, and I think it came off into a whole lot more. But speaking toward the reserve, and again, not paying attention to anything that's really happened within the community for the past few years, and hearing a lot of people talk about maintenance that's been deferred, not really knowing what exactly that maintenance was that was deferred. Wanting to know, I guess, where I stand on this. I feel like there is the reserves are actually set aside for larger maintenance issues. And Justin's mentioned on a couple of points, being able to, necessarily move money back and forth from the operating to the reserves, which I agree, it is just a paper process there. However, I think it's good to know that some of those, just like the drainage issues that have came up, I know we have a few more homes that need to have that taken care of that I feel are in serious need. My first week on the board, I was tromping around with Justin on the middle of a bad storm just to find out what drainage issues there were, because I wanted to make sure to address that. And that is something that if the funds aren't there in the operating, that is something that, in my opinion, we go ahead and use from the reserve to get it done, so that damage isn't made to someone's foundation, causing a bigger issue. And I don't think that there should be a deferred maintenance when there's things that need to be taken care of. They need to be taken care of. And if we're working on the budget correctly, we don't have crystal balls to guess exactly what issues are going to come up through the year. But at the same token, we can't have those reserves and say, oh, well, we have money, we can just go ahead and pull it out of the reserve. We have to be very careful. Again, it's that fiduciary responsibility of wanting to save what money that we can. And I know that there was a discussion before several years back about, volunteers coming together to plant flowers, and we've got money, why aren't we paying to have that done? I personally took my chainsaw today and went out and helped an owner that wanted stuff cut back from their patio. And that was something that we didn't have to charge to a landscaping. I didn't have a problem doing it. It got done fast. It didn't charge the community anything. I come from a point of view, I don't see that there's anything wrong with if we have volunteers within the community that want to help out and want to do things. It's just helping neighbors. And anytime we help a neighbor, regardless of whether we're on the board or not, we see a need that needs to be addressed, and it's something that we have time and ability to be able to do, we can save that community that dollar. Every dollar that's saved, again, just helps keep the money in our reserves where we need it, so that it's there when we need it, and also opening up more money into the operating account that we have to do different things. And feel like I guess that's why I am going through these line items so carefully, not necessarily so I can make sure that they are put in the right places, townhouse, single family, when that just comes up, right? But it's also looking at, okay, is this expense? Where's this expense coming from? Is it something that we can save on? Is it the best use of our dollars? And I would hope that everyone on the board is doing that as well, just to, again, make sure that we've got enough eyes on this, that we're taking care of the money that has been entrusted to us in the best way possible. And that's just my view on how the reserve should be used in the operating fund.
Yeah, if we want to use any of the reserves to dip into the drainage issues that are preventing some owners from leaving their homes, yeah, we do.
I definitely think that's one point that we're all in agreement on, as far as like, everybody on this board really is trying to do the best thing for the neighborhood as their opinion goes.
I was just trying to look back and see if there was anything I missed in chat, which I threw a thank you into David, but he was just talking about the same thing. He was echoing the responsiveness of US lawns versus Yellowstone, and the big improvements.
The other thing we have discussed as a board, and I think that it's maybe important just to throw out there while we have, the community, is the pool. There was some maintenance issues that had been brought to my attention that needed to be done. I personally do not use the pool. Haven't been in the pool in years. So I thought that it would be appropriate to visit the pool this last week. Chandra went with me and took a look at the things that needed to be replaced as far as pool furniture, which we were all in agreement with in some form, whether it's restrapping, whether it's getting new tables for spring, taking care of the doors on both of the bathrooms. And the time frame as far as to do that, I threw out next spring just so that it was ready for the new season. I don't see any reason on getting new furniture and having it then sit in sit out there all winter, being in storage all winter. So I'd rather have things done, fresh and crisp for spring. So that should be something that is put into our budget for 2025, and definitely something that we know about. And I believe that, again, hasn't been voted on, but I believe that we're all in agreement that that's something that we want to go ahead and move forward with.
Yeah, I think the how we get there is definitely not decided yet, but I know it's a common expense. And one thing I want to throw out too that came up, and I'm sorry, I'm sitting here thinking of different things that came up, questions that come up later. We talked about, and Justin, thank you again. There will most likely be some sort of an increase to the townhome dues. That's it. I think that's going to happen. But the question would be like, what's going to happen with the single family dues? Now, it's complicated, so I'm gonna make it as simple as I can make it, and it may be maybe I'm making it too simple. But when we decreased the dues a few years back, for the single family homeowners, there was a lot of, but why would you do that? The single family homeowners only pay for what the townhomes pay for. We all pay together. So like for the pool expense or something. So if the costs are being met on the operating expense, the next thing is to say, hey, what about the contributions to the general reserve, the common reserve? And that the townhome payers, people, they pay into that as well. So if we lower the amount of money that the town or the single family homeowners are paying in, that means the townhomes contribution decreased. Now, at the time, of course, the single family homeowners money went down, but the town homeowners money did not go down. They went up. But why? Well, that offset it so that money that would have had to go into the general budget, the common budget from the townhomes, stayed on the townhome side. So if you lower the dollars coming from the single family homeowners, even if you're increasing the money, it's only getting you there quicker. I know, not to go too deep into it, but one of the ideas that was thrown out the other night was the possibility of, hey, what if for 2 years the townhomes didn't pay into the common budget at all? Well, if the townhomes didn't pay into the common budget for 2 years, that means we don't have the single family homeowners paying into the budget, into the common reserve for 2 years, to keep things even. Like if there's no money coming in from one side, well, there's no money coming in from the other. And I don't think we're in a position to do that, though I do believe, from what I've heard from multiple treasurers over the years, the general budget is well funded. The common reserves are well funded. So I think we're good as far as common expenses. That's one of the reasons I'm like, hey, if we're going to buy these cameras, let's buy them from the common. So we're not touching money and I think that's totally justifiable. So I think that the work that we want to do at the pool should be no problem whatsoever. We just got to find a way to get that work done at the townhomes too. And I don't like deferring maintenance. I hate deferring maintenance. So And I don't want to raise dues a whole bunch, but I don't want to defer maintenance anymore. So I think we're just going to have to get there. So that's my thoughts on that. And it's almost 9 o'clock. We started just after 7. We have done several of these late nights. We will do more, no doubt. We don't have another meeting scheduled for a while, but that's because we do. And I want to remind everybody, we went back to the schedule of every other month on the second Monday of the month. So a meeting like this is the dedication from the board. There's only 4 meetings required by our rules quarterly, and you could throw one of those in as the annual meeting. So 3 meetings. The dedication by the board, though, of saying, yeah, we'll do this special meeting of the board for a budget purpose. So I'll ask the board to meet again. We'll regroup and say, hey, where do we want to be? These arguments, these discussions, these things that we're doing in front of the community, they're important because the community needs to see, like, how did you get there? So this is super important. And I very much appreciate people for taking the beating of it. And I agree with what Justin just put up. Justin, you want to go over what you're pointing out right here? Because I think I agree with this.
Yeah, Rob, if you can see my screen, I'm going to send this email one time. Are these the common areas in the community?
I would add one thing to this. If you go, this can be hard to describe. So circle the pool of the circle, start with your cursor of the circle of the pool, go up to the townhomes, go to the right. There's a triangle right there. That is common in my mind.
Okay.
I agree. I think that's common. And also across the street from that, right along the wood line there. Yeah.
And the entrance to the townhomes, is that not also common?
I would consider that common.
I think I kind of got that. I don't know why in the service map there's a triangle on the other side of Harrisburg Road.
I can explain that to you. So that little triangle across the street is a weird little anomaly of land that we own. That is the island of Almond, Glen. And at this point, we own that little triangle across there. We don't do anything with it. It shouldn't be being serviced in any way. But if you just want to know a little weird oddity about our community, we own a little land mass. It's all by itself out there. So that's the island of Almond Glen.
Yeah, we should.
But we don't
rent it
actually
out.
do any landscaping to that, do we?
Well, the people who are doing all the work out there in the community, like along the roadway, they wanted us to let them use our stuff to park there, and we were like, yeah, if you want to pay us a small fee for it, and they're like, nah, it's fine, we'll just park someplace else. So that's why they didn't park over there. We wouldn't let them use it because they didn't want to pay us. So. If we had somebody who wanted that sliver, it's a weird little triangle there, though. But yeah, we don't service it.
Yeah.
So there's no cost to it.
Yeah, it's no cost.
The other thing I just wanted to look at, get the community thinking about. We don't necessarily need to have a motion on it. So close to 9 o'clock, but the collection procedures is something that for a while now I've been wanting to just get to a point of even on. Right, we have right now just $600 each, and you can see this is not updated. My video keeps on going off. Apologize for that. But $600 on the as of right the former dues for the single family home turnover, which right now equates to approximately 4 payments, and it's $600 for the townhome owner, which equates to approximately 3 payments. And so the assessment frequency is different, right? Obviously, monthly for the townhome owner means in 3 months they'll become delinquent, and for the single family homeowner in approximately 12 months right now they'll become delinquent. For me, it's not so much the single family homeowner versus the town homeowner for this, but it's the delinquency frequency. Somebody can stop paying dues for an entire 12 months in this community before we can turn them over to the attorney. I just basically want to shorten that to 9 months for the single family home delinquencies, to make it 3 assessments. Missed means we can do the attorney turnover for the single family home. So again, that's not something that we have to vote over, but this collection procedure document is something I've wanted to get changed for a while now.
How much does it cost for the attorney when you say turn it over to the attorney?
To us, it's free.
Yep, nothing.
Yeah, those fees are passed on to the homeowner who's late on their fees.
Yeah, to us it's free, and I won't flash the delinquency list on the recording, obviously, but we're $8,000 in delinquencies right now in the 90 plus aging bucket. We're $2,200 delinquent. So it'd be great to be able to collect that money soon. But our assessment frequency right now, obviously, is we have to wait a year, basically, of delinquency in order to get the attorney involved on the single family home delinquency.
I'm not against the change, but if I just want to make sure I'm tracking correctly, that's like 3% of our operating budget, right? The 8,000.
Very small dollars. Very small
Well,
dollars.
I agree with you. I
yeah.
agree with you, but I just want to point out, like, from a national standard, 3% is really, really good. So we are doing very, very well as a community, but I do agree with you. It ended up being a little long, so I'm on board with the change that you're suggesting. I don't know. Do you guys feel like there's a lot of discussion needed on this, or do you want to talk about emotion and just see if we can get that done tonight?
I think Justin's logic totally makes sense, and I'm on board with it as well.
What do you think, Heather?
Heather, no peer pressure. If you want to take a look at the July financials and come back.
Yeah,
And
100%.
take a look at the delinquency list.
I'm fine with it. I honestly don't have any experience in that area. So whatever makes sense to those that have had more experience, I am in agreement with.
So I'm trying to craft it into a motion. So the motion would be something along the lines of change the single family homeowner. We always refer to it as the threshold, the collection threshold. So, but the collection procedure change would be to change the single family homeowner attorney turnover threshold.
How does that work if you have someone in the community, and maybe this doesn't come up though, who is working with you and like, hey, we know we're behind, but we should be able to get caught up, next month, and you feel like there's a lot of, sincerity, or there's an actual situation, that you can pinpoint job loss, or, something large health issue, or something that has, taken place. Is there grace that we're allowed to give out in situations like that, or how is that handled? Or is it straight across the board, the same regardless?
I think Rob is
Yes.
maybe more graceful than I am. I see the threshold and I ask to be do the attorney turnover.
I
think Rob has had the conversations with people, and sat down with them.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So the initial when you have a late payment, you start getting letters. You'll get a letter in the mail that says, hey, you're late. And then you will get an additional letter that says, hey, you have a second late payment. Eventually, if you continue to fall behind, you continue incurring late fees. So one of the things that gets people into like a weird bubble is you didn't pay your payment on time, so you get a $20 late fee. The next month you get another one, so now you have $40 late fee, and you're getting these letters. Well, then you're okay, I'm gonna pay it, and you pay up, but you didn't pay your late fees, so your late fees continue on. So now you got these late fees in there that stack. Or you get to a point where you're almost to the threshold, and finally you talk to AMG and they put you on a payment plan through AMG first, which allows you to pay and catch up, which we have that built in. That's fine. But you incur these late fees. We have waived late fees in the past when people come in and they say, hey, I know I'm way behind. I'm ready to get paid up and I want to pay up. So we have a lot of room for grace. There's a lot of opportunity for payment. The problem they run into is when they do hit that threshold, just so everybody understands what happens, when they hit that threshold and Justin says they're at it, and they say, hey, do you want us to turn over? Immediately it attaches to the attorney. It's nothing we can help them with anymore. The attorney's fees, if I remember correctly, at one time, they've probably gone up. They were around $900 like that. Boom. You have a $900 bill attached to your account, which includes all the late fees, all the money you owe for assessments, and you owe $900 to the attorney. And then every time you call the attorneys and do stuff, it does it. So now the attorneys will put you on a payment plan and you can pay your way out, but you still owe that $900. And that is collected by the attorneys. They get their money and then they get our money of course, first. That's kind of the process. You really got to be in a bad standing for a long time to get to the point where you get with the attorney. Eventually, you go through what's called a foreclosure process. Not quite the same as the taking your house, eviction, foreclosure, but the liens and all that get attached to your home, and it's a huge mess for people. So we try to keep them from getting there. But
So
there's
for the townhouses, it's only
process.
3 months? Late fees, or I mean, missed payments?
Yeah, 3 missed payments.
because the dollars add up so fast over there. That was the board's original thinking on it. But I agree with Justin on like it's a little long in the tooth for the single family homeowners because you do, and I've not looked at the delinquency list recently. Single family homeowners tend to fall behind in bulk right at the beginning of the month, and then they all catch up, and we make a little bit of money off those late fees, like we said. So, if you want to pay an extra, $20 every month, I love it, but we don't need it. So,
Well, coming
their call.
from a place of just grace, when I sit and I'm just tossing out since we're, throwing this out to a discussion, but 3 months to have it turned over for a townhouse anyhow, to have it turned over to an attorney where immediately they get, $900. And there's not a place where we don't have an opportunity to stop that if they're in communication with us. I know if somebody's.
That's with no communication. That's with if they don't reach out at all. If they reach out and they on those letters and they start that process, then they're good. They're
Okay,
good.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's when
'cause
you
that's what I
don't.
was
It's when
saying.
you
If
just
they're
can't get them.
communicating and they're in a bad financial place,
Yeah.
I don't want to be the person that's like, oh, sorry, 3
Yep.
months, you're out. I
Yep.
mean, if it's communication is open,
Mhm.
I feel comfortable with that.
Justin was correct in what he said earlier, and it kind of goes back to a conversation Shannon and I were having earlier. That joke we were talking about when Rob calls and says he wants to have a private conversation with you. I literally used to go to homes that I'd have a list and I knock on the door and I would talk with them like, "What's going on? What can we do?" I don't have to do that process anymore. But there was jokes on Facebook about, "Man, I made sure to pay my assessment this month. I don't want Rob showing up at my house." And it was always a matter of sitting on the couch with them and going, "What can we do? Because you're way behind." And we would waive tons of late fees to get them there. So I think Grace is definitely the community's in that regard. Like you got to really work. I don't think we've ever had to completely foreclose on a house. We've come very, very close. And when I say foreclose, again, we're not talking about putting people out of their house. It's a totally different process. But
Right, I understand that.
Mhm.
Speaking of late fees, what are the late fees that are showing up as an expense to the management company?
That's that 50-50 split that we're going to have now. It went to 100% for a while. But when you get a late fee for your bill and you pay $20, the community keeps 10 and 10 of it goes to the management company. Almost every management company collects 100% of that fee usually.
So what is the late fees that's income then? How is that different?
Should be the other 50%. Is that what you've got it broke out on, Justin?
I'm looking at 2023 actuals, so I just didn't know if we were at the 50-50 or the 100% at that point, or what the difference between those were.
We should have been at 50-50. I don't think that we didn't sign the new contract until 2024, and I don't think it kicked in until midpoint. So I don't think we've lost a lot, but in the past, whenever you'd see late fees, we were keeping 50% and AMG was keeping 50%. So that's where we get those numbers from.
No, Rob, absolutely. Great job on negotiating the late fees with A.
Yeah, it's a little bit of money, small pennies, but at the same time, we could use the pennies. So
Oh, money's good. I'm most disappointed in the amendment of the capital contribution that failed. I thought that was going to be a winner for sure.
but I think we need to explore that because that's actually something that's in our CCNRs. It's already in there. That's why I was like, I could have sworn that was in there, and I'll bring it up to the board. We'll look over it. But I was looking at that today. There's something in there about the management company will collect, or the way it's written, the association will collect an initial payment when somebody moves into the neighborhood. So upon closing, I think is the way it's in there. So that's why I was like, I really thought we had been collecting that over the years, and I'm a little frustrated that I was remiss in that I just didn't know about it. So I think we should look at that. I think that's already in there. We need to, as much as I hate to go back to the attorney, I think we just need to ask the attorney, hey, did you notice this part here? And they'd probably say, oh yeah, you're actually good on that. Whether that's just a month or payment or whatever it is. But I think that's actually something we can get in there, because I agree with you. I think the capital assessment's good. It's healthy for the neighborhood, and it's something I paid on every house I bought, except for my very first one. So so how do you feel as a board? Is there any other, like, we're still mulling it over? Do we need to talk some more about changing this threshold the way Justin's talking, or is that something you guys kind of feel like you could move on tonight, either yay or nay, either way?
I feel we can move forward.
So help me out with the wording on this. And I guess I didn't hear Shanda, but I know before she was like, I'm good with it. So unless you change your mind, if she can always vote now, that'll be your your thing. So Justin, help me out with it. Change the single family attorney tone or turnover threshold to, what's the dollar amount, and what's I guess what's the dollar amount? Do we need to set it as a dollar amount, or do you want to set it as a 9 months? How do you want to break this out?
Yeah, I think the amount would probably be easiest, and we'll just set it at the amount that trips at equal to 3 missed assessments, you know, and as far as late fees and things like that, if you're late on like 2 missed assessments and for some reason you're late on something else, it won't trip 450, unless it you know, because if you have late fees and more late fees and 2 missed assessments and 2 letters, you know, accruing at the $20 a month, it might get you to 400, you know, but it won't get you to 450 unless you truly miss that third assessment. So, you know, 450 or 460, whichever, it doesn't really matter. Whatever equates to 9 months. You know, and the dollar amounts, you know, for the attorney threshold amount for attorney turnover on the collection procedure for the single family home.
All right, so if I word this, change the single, and I was going to kind of err on the lighter side of caution here. Change the single family home attorney turnover threshold to $460. Does that work? Does that sound right? Anybody, any thoughts on that? Change the single family attorney turnover threshold to $460. Is that the right wording I'm looking for? That loose sound.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
it
there it
is.
is. Okay.
And
Okay.
Rob, you
Yeah.
know, as far as putting it to the vote, the way to change it is actually very simple. It's just a link from AMG, and I don't want to run into another situation where somebody other than the president or vice president goes ahead and signs. So I'll send you the link, and it's like a data entry form. It's very simple. It generates an automatic DocuSign. I know because I did it by accident when I was just clicking around, and then I got a DocuSign in my email, and I was like, oh, no, cancel that. And so yeah, I'll send you the link, and you know, it's just a data entry form where you type in the numbers and it sends you a DocuSign. And you know, then I think Danielle or Daisy signs it, and you know, simple from there.
Okay. Let's make it official then. Motion to change the single family home attorney turnover threshold to $460. That's the motion on the table. Any discussion before we throw this to a vote? Anything else? All right, I'll call for a vote then. I will abstain from the vote because there's 3 versus, I don't want to throw a weird 2-2. So I'll abstain. So we're going into it. So I've got somebody trying to call me and I can't end it. Can you guys hear me
Rob,
still? Because I had a phone call.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can hear you.
Rob, sorry to add more commentary
Yeah.
while you're
Go ahead.
calling for the
Go
vote,
ahead.
but the only other thought I have is there are, as of the July financial results, which I have up, changing the, you know, and I won't flash the screen, but changing the threshold from 600 to 450 will make 2 homeowners who are currently not delinquent immediately delinquent. So I just want to make sure that those, you know, homeowners do not get blindsided, as well as we would probably need a communication to the community in some kind of formalized fashion, because there are people who, you know, nothing against them, but know the threshold and, you know, kind of work up to it strategically before they pay for whatever reason. So you know, maybe we could vote on doing it, but table the vote for when, until we can make a
Yeah.
communication to the homeowners I would hate for some of these homeowners, first of all, the two who are going to become immediately delinquent, who are not quite at 600 but greater than 450, and then some other folks who have in their back of their head, they've known for years it was 600 for the turnover, and they want to get closer to that before they make the payment. And then all of a sudden they get a letter from the attorney. So just some communication things to think through on that end.
I'm glad for the additional discussion. So I've changed the and you also, I'm kind of mad you avoided my whole amending the motion thing that we could have done. You know, you could have let me go through the whole process again. So
My
yeah.
other thought with that is, the townhouses currently are paying $215, so 2 months is $430, which, you know, that's where I guess I understand the $460. But are we going to revisit this, after we know if or what the dues are going to increase, if that throws it over? We haven't discussed that. We haven't discussed it.
There,
There is going to be it, but I know that we're going, you know, the discussions have gone
Yes.
that way. So I just wouldn't want this to be something that after dues increase in January, all of a sudden they're triggered after 2.
No, it's okay. There are two separate collection forms. The collection procedure forms for the town homeowner will not change, staying at 600, 3 assessments.
Got it.
And the single family homeowner, it's 2 totally separate collection forms.
Okay, got it.
All right, so I've
Thank you.
got a new motion, so I didn't even get to give my first one, so I have to start fresh. It's frustrating. I really wanted to go through the whole amendment, but you know, whatever. You know, he's on play, so we'll do this one. Motion to change the single family homeowner attorney turnover threshold to $460 as of January 1, 2025. So we could include this information in our annual letter. It would go out, so no additional mailings, won't cost us any extra stuff. So
Fantastic.
any further discussion on that? If you do, I'm going to amend the amendment. All right, so I'll call for a vote on that. Again, I will abstain due to the 4 member board. So I will call for Heather, your vote.
Yes.
Shanda
Yes.
and Justin.
Yes.
So I would call that a win for the night. We got something done, and I know that's something Justin's wanted to do. So, cool. All right, it is 9:20. I am going to do the one motion that requires no vote, which is motion to adjourn the meeting. So that one just happens when it happens. So we're going to adjourn the meeting officially. There might be a few people still out there who'd like to throw something out, have a comment or something like that. I'm happy to stick around a little bit longer. The meeting will officially end at 9:20 p.m. And I very much appreciate the dedication of the board and everybody who hung out through all this. So if the rest of the board, if you guys want to hang out and kind of listen to anybody who might want to be like, hey, I got something I want to say, I'm down. Up to you guys. So you're free to leave or you're free to stick around and throw something out. So the floor is open.
Yeah, I was just going to give the community a member a chance to talk since they've been listening to us all night. But I just wanted to say, you know, for whoever made it to the end of the video, I think we're still recording. You know, the board, you know, we all enjoy being here, and you know, some of the back and forth, we're all conversational with each other, and you know, all communicating regularly. So all of the back and forth, don't confuse it for dislike of each other. We're working together, and we're here in a volunteer capacity because we want to be. So I appreciate my board members, and I hope you guys have a good rest of the night until we work together again via the Gmail, emails, and text messages, and until we can convene again on Zoom, hopefully before too long.
I appreciate that too. I feel the same way. I feel like it's good for us to, you know, we're 4 different individuals, but when you have 5 members, we're 5 different individuals coming from different places with different opinions. And, you know, sometimes we're all like right on the same page, and Shanda and I just love it. And we're like, we're awesome. And then other times Shanda's like, I don't agree with you. And I'm like, I thought we were cool. So, yeah, it's it's good to have these debates because people in the community don't understand what's going on, and I think that's awesome. So anybody else, anybody out there want to throw something out? This, if you've got something you've been trying to get answered for a while and you just want to hear it from the horse's mouth, you know, one of us would be happy to throw out a thought on it. Yeah. One thing I'm gonna do, Justin, I'm gonna go into, I know you're not on Facebook. Eric Barnes posted some stuff, some thoughts. I'm going to get those over to you unless somebody's already sent them to you. Has anybody sent those to you from Facebook, his comments?
No, I don't think anybody's, when were the comments made?
So it was last night. I lost track of it here. Sometime after David posted your video, linked it for you. Which thank you, David, for doing that. If he's still on, I don't think he is, but thank you, David. And then Eric had some comments, and I'll make sure those get to you so that you can kind of, I don't know, address them maybe if you want to give us feedback on it.
I think
Not tonight.
I think yeah, those I thought you were referring to the additional comments. You know, for anyone who is unfamiliar, Eric is the previous treasurer whose his input is invaluable to the community, and you know, of course, when he speaks, it's in the board's prerogative to at least acknowledge and listen on the thoughts, having run the finances for 5 years with Rob. So yeah, somebody did send those screenshots of the comments, and I think I spoke to them in the video if somebody wants to listen to those.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know if you'd even had a chance to even see them. It's not really fair since you're not on the Facebook page, and you know, we'll go from anything else. If there's something out there that somebody watches this video, if you got this far in and you watch this video, or if you were here tonight and you want to get some answers, if you email us at almondglenhoa@gmail, can you unmute us? Oh, you're muted. I'm sorry, Laura. I thought, yeah, asked to unmute. I think I can hit ask to unmute. I don't know that I can unmute you. I think you have to unmute yourself.
Oh, nope, I'm there.
Hey, how are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Excellent.
I just wanted to comment that over the weekend, there was somebody who I believe was a single family homeowner that commented about some stuff that they had for free. If not, they were going to the dumpsters. So I don't know if that meant to the townhome dumpsters or like her own dumpster. However, I think that there's a lot of possibly single family homeowners that don't understand that those dumpsters are not for everybody. They're not for the community. Is it reasonable maybe to put out a letter to each home? Just
So I think so those letters get expensive, but I do
know.
think we could include that, since we're gonna do a mailing at the end of the year that includes like the budget and all that kind of stuff. We're gonna include this threshold thing we just talked about. We're
Right.
going to put some signage up at the that's what we were talking about earlier. I don't know if you got in early
Right.
enough to catch
I
that.
heard it.
So I think that signage could include townhomes only, no single family usage. And then on top of that, we could include something in kind of the mailing that goes out. I think that's reasonable too. Let me make a note about that. I think it's
Yeah,
reasonable.
I know that not everybody pays attention to stuff that's put on Facebook or whatever. So, I mean, they very likely may not have known that it's not a community service.
I think they know. I think at this point they know, unless they're very, very new to the community. So I think if somebody was to try to claim ignorance, I would be right there. You're being very kind, but I think we all know that they know better at this point. They shouldn't be doing that.
Well, I should
I'm
hope
with
so,
you.
but you know, is what it is. And I saw that the post was taken down, so maybe somebody commented that wasn't allowed or whatever. But anyways, I noticed that was something that was put up this weekend.
Worth mentioning, and I'll put a note here to include dumpster information, because it is kind of like one of those big, those dumpsters are expensive, and when they fill
Yeah.
up over and over and over, and we have to pay to clean up a mess up there and everything. I know Melissa from last year, well, Melissa had put together a door-to-door collection, kind of like we used to have, and the money, it was like $19,000, so that's $10,000 more. That's a lot of money. I don't think we can do that, but
Right.
I also don't want to spend $10,000 on sending somebody to pick up trash. I think we're all in agreement. We've been talking about it quite a bit. It's a frustration to us. And between dumpsters and landscaping, those have been the bane of my existence since I got on first board.
And speaking of landscaping, is there, I don't know a whole lot about the whole pine straw thing. It's only been a thing since I've moved to this area. But it seems to me like they need to remove some of it instead of keep adding to it. Is that?
So it is supposed to break down. Pine straw is kind of one of those things. If you're from someplace up north or out west, sometimes people are like, "What's with all the pine straw?" And it is a local thing. But pine
Yeah.
straw is supposed to break down, and it kind of gets compacted. Every once in a while, having it cleaned out is a good idea. So, like you're saying, but it's an added expense.
Yeah.
It's not something they usually do. So
No, and
it
I was
makes it
just
look
wondering
nicer.
because of the flooding that I have in my front walkway, every single time it rains, I have a massive puddle in front of my front door. So I wasn't sure if, I know that my sidewalk leads down to my front door. But I just wasn't sure if the compacted pine straw made any difference there.
Laura, if you don't mind, what would you email the Almond Glen HOA with your address and your issue? And this is exactly the kind of thing that Heather brought up to try to get addressed. That's a terrible
I
experience.
actually have Laura's address right in front of me. Her and I
Yeah.
have connected, so
Yes.
she is on my radar. So I've got you, Laura.
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
was as you were describing your front yard, I was remembering the photos that Heather was showing us that she come across. So yeah, that I was connecting the dots. So
Yeah, and AMG did come out about a year or so ago and redirected the downspout from the gutters that used to lead right to that spot. However, it has not corrected the situation. I still have a massive
It needs a
lake
French
in front of my
drain.
house. Yeah. So, all right, that's
Yeah.
all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, I'm gonna head off, guys. Thanks very much for a great meeting. Look forward to the next one.
thanks, Justin. I'll hang out for a few more minutes. I'm not quite ready for bed yet, but if anybody's Shanda, Heather, if you guys are packing it up, everybody will probably start packing it up. But if anybody's got anything and you're kind of like, I don't want to talk in front of people, it's okay. You can just unmute and yell at me or something.
I'm hopping off. Everybody have a good evening or good
See you,
night.
Shanda. Have a good night.
Bye.
Michael, Robert, you guys help. Michael bailed. Robert, you got anything, man? Assuming it's Robert, it could just be the name. It could be the family. So it's just Robert so far. Everybody's bailing down.
All right. Well, I will
All right.
take out.
Yep.
Call it a night. Bye.
Have a good night. All right, it's just you and me, Robert. Anything? Or did you bail and it's just stuck? All right, well, I will call it a night then too. Good night.